Let me ask you something real quick. How did you feel when Christmas ended last night? Not what you told other people, not the polite answer. What was it like when things got quiet? Because a lot of men, the day after Christmas, it feels heavier than the holiday itself. The build-up's done, the gatherings are over, everyone goes back to their routine. And now it's just you, your life, your direction, your results. That feeling sitting with you today isn't random. Here's the problem. The day after Christmas shows you what didn't change this year. There's no distractions left, no forced cheer, no excuse to stay busy. You start noticing what you kept putting off, what stayed the same, what you told yourself you would handle later. And for a lot of men, one thing becomes obvious fast. You're surrounded by people, but you're not surrounded by men who help you move forward. You've got conversations, but no real direction. You've got activity, but nothing's actually improving. That's frustrating because you know you're capable of more. Here's where most men get it wrong. They try to figure out everything alone. They think carrying it solo is just what you do. They think needing other men means something went wrong. They think pushing harder without input will fix it. So they grind quietly. They overthink. They repeat the same patterns. And the year ends exactly how it started. Because when structure disappears, doubt shows up. You replay decisions. You question past choices. You wonder if next year is going to look the same. You tell yourself January will be different, but it usually isn't. Not because you don't want it bad enough, not because you're lazy. It's because no man builds momentum by himself. The men around you shape how you think. They set what feels normal. Their habits rub off whether you want them to or not. If the men around you avoid truth, you will too. If they justify staying stuck, you'll start doing the same. That's why some men make real progress while others stall for years. They're not guessing alone. Purpose grows faster when it's tested by other men. Men who question your thinking. Men who don't let you hide behind stories. Men who expect action. That kind of pressure doesn't drain you. It sharpens you. So if today feels heavy, hear this. You're not failing. You're not behind. You're not messed up. You're just isolated. And by the end of this stream, you'll understand exactly why that matters and what changes when you stop trying to do this alone.
We're going live, baby.
No. We'll do it live.
You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host,
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer. He is a certified master life coach and NLP practitioner.
It's true. It's damn true. What's going on, fellas? I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. Happy Friday. We are live today. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Paul Bauer. I help men level up and get better with women. And the funny thing about doing that is it tends to make us better men in all areas of our lives. Today is the last day of my Think and Grow Rich mini series, and we're going to essentially be talking about Napoleon Hill's concept of a mastermind today. What is a mastermind, you ask? Well, it's a group of men who get together to put their minds together towards one definite goal, right? And it's one of the best known ways to go further, faster with your goals, whatever they may be, right? Maybe your goal is to fix your marriage. Maybe your goal is to find a better woman. Maybe your goal is to lose 50 pounds. Maybe your goal is to make an extra 30K this year. whatever your goal, a mastermind can get you there faster. All right. Now, I don't know if you guys have read this book, but I highly recommend you read it. Yes, there's a lot of woo-woo in it, but there's also a lot of very practical information in it that's timeless. This was written in like the 1930s, but almost everything that he talks about in this book still applies today. So I highly recommend you guys get that. You guys can, there's free audiobook versions on YouTube that you can get. There's a YouTube channel that I'd like to give a shout out to because I've just been pouring through their audiobooks because they have a lot of these old classics on there for free. They're called the Master Key Society, so check them out. And I just been listening to some of them on repeat lately, which we'll get into here. But let's get into it, guys. December exposes who's really in your corner. Okay. And we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, but when life slows down, you start noticing empty seats around you, especially during the holidays when you're supposed to get together with everyone, right? A lot of guys, I was posting some stuff last night. A lot of guys are alone during the holidays. And that's why like a lot of guys feel super depressed during this time of year. And what a lot of guys either realize or don't realize is they don't have a circle. They don't have anyone that they can turn to, right? They might have coworkers, they might have acquaintances, but they don't have any real dudes that they can bounce ideas off of. And like, especially in the red pill space, right? Like you stumble upon the red pill space. Maybe your wife isn't banging you, or maybe you got dumped and you're going through a divorce. And the people that you go to talk to about this stuff, once you go looking for answers, you start finding red pill. You start talking to people about red pill, like they think you're crazy, right? They think you're nuts because most people are still plugged in to the matrix, right? And so when you find this stuff, you really realize that you don't have any friends. There's been a couple of guys at Wolfpack that's one of their biggest complaints is they don't have anyone around them that understands them. I had a one-on-one client last year who he's still in the pack, but when he and I were working together, that was like one of his biggest frustrations. And he would try to talk about this stuff with his family, and they tried to do a freaking intervention on him because they thought that him studying red pill was toxic or whatever. And it's like, they just don't understand, right? They just don't understand. So a lot of guys realize who their friends really are, especially this time of year when they find themselves alone. By the way, guys, I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail. Most of the time I'm live, even on the day after a holiday, but sometimes like no matter what, I at least have a pre-record out there for you. So holidays magnify loneliness, right? Even men surrounded by family can feel isolated because they don't have masculine influence or direction. I'll tell you this about my family, right? I love my parents to death, but I can only take them in small doses. And we had our Christmas on Christmas Eve because this year, with a parenting agreement, you have to make compromises. And so this was my year where I had my kids for Christmas Eve instead of Christmas Day. So we basically celebrated on Christmas Eve. And, like clockwork, the conversation in the evening devolved into why my ex-wife is a total bitch, right? Which is like, I've been over the divorce for a decade now, right? We got divorced back in 2014. So over a decade, I'm past it. You know what I mean? I'm past it. I learned my lesson from it. My ex-wife and I actually get along okay, but my parents, like they're the kind of people that hold on to grudges and stuff like that. And my mom just makes these snide little one-off off-color comments where I know what she's thinking and I know what she's implying, and it's annoying. It's annoying as hell. And every year it's the same because we have to swap, every other year. And so on the years that we don't have them on Christmas Day, my mom makes a lot of comments about why like my ex-wife is some conniving bitch that is preventing the kids from being with her on Christmas Day. And I'm like, it's called a parenting agreement, Mom. You know, like, let it go. It's like this every fucking year. So, so even guys that have family members around, you know, they have this sort of contention with their family members, and they realize that they don't have a close circle. This is why, you know, the friends that you choose are often better than the friends or than the family members that you're born with, because you don't get to choose your family, right? You were born into that. You didn't get a decision on that. They happen to be your family members, but you didn't choose them. But guys in a close circle, your close group of friends that you can come to with anything, you chose them. That they're almost better, I think. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that, though. So a lot of guys, they don't have anyone. They don't have anyone that they could truly talk to. And so they try to fix their life alone, and then they end up burning out. They end up getting zeroed out, right? What is zeroing out? You know, it's a concept that Rollo Tomasi came up with a long time ago, but it's essentially where a guy, you know, sort of realizes that he has no path forward. You know, he at least he feels like he has no path forward. A lot of guys put identity into relationships. A lot of guys put identity into a certain job, right? And when they lose those things, they feel like they have nothing left to live for because they put all their identity into those things, and they get zeroed out, and they oftentimes want to unalive themselves, right? And it's funny, you know, I've been watching Mad Men. You know, I'm one of those guys that I never watch the hip new show when it comes out. I always watch it like 10 years later. Right? Well, I'm getting into Mad Men, and I'm in season 2, and there was an episode where this one account executive, I guess he's like, his alcoholism got the best of him, and during the workday, he was getting ready for some big sales pitch for some company, and he ends up pissing himself there in the office in front of everybody, and then he sits down in his office chair and passes out, right? And so his coworkers, like the one of the female coworkers, is like, "Oh, this is such a terrible thing. Let's cover for him, right?" And then this other guy who's kind of a weasel in the office decides to go rat him out to the bosses, right? So the bosses are like, we got to cut him loose. We got to fire him. He can't be doing this kind of stuff. And Don Draper, the main character, ends up talking the head boss out of completely firing him, but putting him on a 6-month leave of absence so he can go get cleaned up. But basically, he's being fired. You know what I mean? It's like a soft firing. And I just remember at the end of that episode, he went out with the bosses to go get drinks so that they could break the news to him. And he's just sitting there talking to Don. He's like, without this job, if I don't go in there on Monday morning, what do I have? Like, what else? Who am I? And I was like, that guy's zeroed out. That was a perfect example of a guy zeroed out. But a lot of guys, they try to take care of this stuff alone, right? Because they were taught that asking for help means that they're weak, or they just think that no one's out there that cares about them, right? And so they try to lone wolf everything. And it reminded me of this video clip that I saw, God, maybe last year. And that you guys might really identify with what these guys are saying. Hold on, let me show this here.
Who do you call when you are at your lowest? Who is that one person?
Nobody. I'm a man. No one cares.
Not a single soul. Nobody.
No one. Because I'm all alone.
I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that I don't call anyone.
Nobody. I'm a guy. Nobody gives a shit.
Speaking for the guys when I say this, literally no one.
Do y'all call someone?
Nobody. Just nobody. Got no one to talk to, so nobody. Who cares? Nobody.
No one. I'm a man. No one cares.
No one. Not a single fucking person.
I wouldn't call anyone. I wouldn't turn to a single person on this earth because they don't care. They will just find a way to use it against me.
It's a damn shame. I don't know why, but Restream started playing that sound on the speakers here, so I had to mute it just so that there wouldn't be an echo or whatever. And I went and checked the settings here, and it's the audio set for my earphones. I don't know what's going on with Restream. Anyway, how many of you guys have seen that video? That one went pretty viral, and there's also similar videos out there like that. But how many of you guys have seen that video, right? And be honest in the chat. When life gets really hard, who do you actually talk to? Who do you talk to? Let me know in the chat or in the comments if you're watching the replay, right? And if the answer is nobody, go ahead and type nobody. It's okay, right? Go ahead and put that in there. Now, a lot of guys, it's interesting. A lot of guys out there, they have no purpose. They have no purpose in life, or they equate their job with purpose, but a lot of guys hate their job. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, they ended up in the career they're in by accident. They sort of stumbled into it, and it's not something that they chose to do. It's just something that they do, right? I had a colleague back when I was doing IT before I retired from IT, and this was the early days. This guy was he was a little bit of a mentor of mine when it came to desktop support when I was learning desktop, and he and I ended up working together at a different company, and he and I were chatting one day, and he would tell me that he's like, IT is just a job for me. He's like, my career is music, because he was a drummer in a local band. And that's what he would say. He's like if people asked him what he did, he would tell them, I'm a musician. I'm a musician. He wouldn't tell them I'm in IT, but IT paid the bills, right? So there's a lot of people that do that. They have a job that they hate. They have no real purpose in life. My friend had a purpose in life. He was a drummer, right? He was doing what he loved to do. But a lot of men without purpose, they get swallowed up by December and in life in general. And when a guy doesn't have a mission, their mind fills the vacuum with fear, doubt, and regret, right? They have a lack of purpose and a lack of definite aim. You know, when we say a definite aim, we're talking about like intention. They're intentionally doing what they want to do. Now, I'm reading this book on repeat. I'm mainly listening to the audiobook, because this book was originally an audiobook. It started as an audiobook. It wasn't even supposed to be an audiobook. It was a motivational speech. It's called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. And I've been listening to it every day. The audio version of it's about 40 minutes long, right? So you can listen to it easily in a day. And I'm going to read this to you guys next week, because it's that good of a book. But one of the things that Earl talks about is that if you take 100 men, right, and if they're all 65 years old, you take 165-year-old men. He said that if you asked them when they were 25 if they had ambition and stuff like that, and he would say almost all of them would say, yeah, I had ambition. I knew what I wanted to do. I had a drive for life and all this kind of stuff. But by the time they reach 65, out of 100, he said 1 will be rich, 4 will be financially independent, 5 will still be working, and then 54 will be broke. Okay? So out of 100, only 5 make the grade, right? Why? It's because Earl talks about it in the book. He's like, because they conform. They just sort of fall into whatever, and they conform with the rest of society. And they're basically walking sheep that don't think for themselves. You know, they're not working for a definite goal. Vast majority of people just let life happen to them, and they never experience success. Now, Nightingale's definition of success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, right? So the moment that you set a goal and a purpose in life, and you start working towards that, he says you're immediately successful, because most people don't do that. Okay. We're going to get into that more next week. But your environment shapes your thinking. If you sit around men with no goals, you slowly inherit their habits, right? One thing you hear a lot in this space is we're the product of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. Right. So if you're hanging around with like all your friends are broke losers that play video games all day and don't do shit, you're going to be the 6th broke loser that plays video games all day, doesn't do shit. Right. But if you hang around with 5 people that are movers and shakers, and they're going somewhere, you're going to be the 6th one. right? So you really need to evaluate who's in your circle right now. And a lot of you guys don't even have a fucking circle, right? So you're just wandering around aimlessly through life. So you will rise or fall to the standard of the men closest to you. And your results in life reflect the circle that you're in, okay? I will also add to this. It also reflects the participation in the circle that you're in, okay? Because there's a lot of guys, and I'm calling you guys out. There's a lot of guys in my wolf pack that are lurkers. They're just in there. They're in the group. They never participate. They never comment. They're just in there reading every day and, whatever. And then they go about their lives. They're not participating. Okay. So your results reflect the circle and the people that you keep around you, but also the participation in the circle that you keep around you. Okay. If you're the strongest one in your group, you're in the wrong group. Right. If you're like, I've heard other people say this too. If you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room. You want to be in rooms with people that challenge you a little bit. You know what I mean? One thing that I loved this whole experience. When I worked with my business coach last year and into this year, it was awesome working in with a group of people that were millionaires, right? There was a lady in the group, Nurse Chick and I, we went up to Toronto for one of their events, right? There was a lady in the group, multi-millionaire. She was a doctor. She was an MD, and she wasn't doing normal medicine practice type stuff. What she realized is that she can make more money by basically licensing her prescription authority to med spas around the country, and by being able to prescribe Botox to their clients, right? And so she was able to basically become a legal drug dealer, and she's making money hand over fist doing that kind of stuff. It was fascinating to talk to these people that were doing infinitely better in business than me. You know what I mean? So that rose me up to a slightly different level. You know what I mean? By the way, guys, a lot of this stuff, your success in life, all that kind of stuff comes down to mindset, right? And my book on mindset, which I like to promote on Fridays because it is Frame Friday, is my book, Psychology Paradigm. Have you ever felt like something's holding you back in your relationships? Like you're always on the back foot, struggling to connect with women? You're not alone. Many men are taught to be weak, to defer, to play small around women by their upbringing, by society, by the very world that shaped them. But what if you could break free from the invisible chains that have held you back? What if you could rewrite the script, reprogram the paradigm that's been running your life? This is your chance to step into the man you were always meant to be. In The Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence, Psychology Paradigm by Paul Bauer, the first book in R.P. Thor's groundbreaking series, you'll learn how to understand and transform the paradigms that have shaped your life. You'll discover how to develop a dominant masculine presence, one that commands respect, inspires trust, and brings fulfillment to your relationships. Don't wait for life to change on its own. Take control. Order your copy of The Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence, Psychology Paradigm now on Amazon. Available in hardcover, paperback, or on Kindle. This is more than a book. It's your roadmap to a life of purpose, strength, and success. Make the decision today. Reprogram your life and step into the man you were meant to be. Indeed. We got a bunch of people in the chat here. Dividend Gypsy says, "What's up, Paul? Hope you had an amazing Christmas." It was all right. I spent the day yesterday alone. I loved it. I loved it. Nurse Chick was doing family stuff, and I said at the beginning that I had we celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve with my kids and my parents, and my parents annoy the shit out of me, and like I said, I can only take them in small doses, so I just enjoyed the day yesterday. Did a bunch of errands, went and worked out, read my audiobooks, and watched movies, and it was great. I loved it. And my mom texted me, and she goes, "Oh, it would be nice if you came over for dinner." And I was like, "I appreciate it, Mom, but I'm enjoying my solitude. Thank you." And he says, "Thank you for creating a positive community." Yeah, I try to keep Wolfpack positive. We do have, like, guys that are going through a divorce. It's hard to stay positive when you're going through a divorce. So we do have a separate divorce subgroup for divorce strategy. So that guys that are like, so pissed off at their ex-wife or whatever, and they're mad and shit, you go talk shit over there. Okay. Like, try to keep the main group positive. CW says, Merry Christmas, gents. Dar Fitness is smashing that like button. Is alpha. It is, in fact, an alpha male move to hit the like button. Okay. Never forget that, guys. Dividend Gypsy says, I'm one of those guys who put a lot of my identity into intimate relationships. Yeah. That hurts. That's why when you go through a breakup, it like rips your heart out. You know what I mean? It's because you put so much of yourself into it. And that's why I teach guys to stay lovingly detached, right? Stay lovingly detached. That way you can actually keep an eye on how the relationship's going. You keep an eye on your girl's attraction level, and things actually tend to work out better when you're lovingly detached. And then if she breaks up with you, there's always another woman, right? Oh, Urkin says, Merry Christmas and good day, folks. And let's see here. I talk to myself. Isn't it how everyone's doing it? Well, when you're talking to yourself, you ever notice how, like, when you're talking to yourself, people think you're crazy? Because you're crazy. But you know what? Fascinating. Fun fact, though. Okay. If you ever read Think and Grow Rich, right? Napoleon Hill talks about the mastermind, which is what we're talking about today. And he does talk about getting into groups and talking with other men that are working towards a definite purpose and all this kind of stuff. But his example of a mastermind was he would sit in a room and imagine dead people, like prominent dead people, like Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Edison, and like all these people were in a room, and Socrates and shit, right? And he would imagine being in a like a boardroom with these guys, and he was talking to dead people. Like, that's fucking crazy. Okay, that's oh man. Let's see. Hold on. I talked to my parents and brother. I live in Mexico, and they're in North Carolina, and my psychologist. The problem with talking to psychologists for men is it's basically you're in a room talking with a liberal until you agree with them. Like, it really doesn't help men a lot. Men do better with action, in my opinion. Dar Fitness says, get in the wolf pack. Men need tribes or groups. So many men unalive themselves because they think they have no one. Yeah, it's sad, man. Can you drop the name of the YouTube channel for complete audiobooks? It's called the Master Key Society. The Master Key Society. That's like all their videos are just old books, and they pull them out of a cabinet, and then they literally read them to you, and you have the book on the screen. You know what I mean? And you can rip them to MP3 and listen to them on your phone. I'm not suggesting that, but that's possible. That's all I'm saying. Ergen says, I will be a lurker even if I join the Wolfpack. I don't believe that, because you're not a lurker now. You participate in the chat every fucking episode. Like, you would totally participate in the chat, bro. Totally. All right. Growth requires friction. So have you ever heard the expression iron sharpens iron? Well, comfort never made anyone disciplined or respected. There's a did you know that when a baby bird is hatching out of an egg, that if the mama bird peels back the pieces of shell and helps the baby bird out, that baby bird will die? It'll die. It needs the struggle of getting out of the shell itself to build up enough strength to be able to survive in the wild. But if you help it out of the shell, it'll die because it doesn't develop that strength. There's a story in, I think it might be Ryan Stone's book on Frame, where he talks about how they tried growing, I think, poplar trees in like a perfect domed environment with perfect, weather where it wasn't too windy or anything like that. And these trees were able to grow fast in this protective environment, but they were brittle as shit, right? You couldn't build with them. They were basically worthless balsa wood. And what they realized is that trees, as they're growing, need the wind blowing on it so that it develops these microfibers that make it stronger, which makes the wood stronger, which allows you to build with these trees, right? So same thing goes with you. If you don't have any kind of friction in your life, if you don't have any kind of challenges, if you don't have any men challenging you, you're never going to grow. You're never going to get stronger, right? A lot of guys, they end up surrounding themselves with people who enable their excuses. You know, they don't challenge them or push them or call them out. This is a problem with hanging out with women, right? Because women oftentimes want to spare your feelings. And, you know, this is why like women are never held accountable, because everyone's trying to spare their feelings and no one ever wants to tell women what they need to hear. And so they end up just saying a bunch of shit that makes you feel good, but doesn't actually do anything for you. You know, what's really funny, if you use ChatGPT a lot. I saw a guy in one of my comments on Facebook saying that he instead of going to a therapist, he was using ChatGPT essentially to help him process a bunch of stuff. The problem with ChatGPT is it tells you what you want to hear too. You know what I mean? And also, ChatGPT is a terrible place to get advice because it's all blue-pilled bullshit. You know what I mean? It's all touchy-feely nonsense. And so you really have to train ChatGPT to not do that. But no matter what you do, it always falls back on its base programming, which is blue-pilled bullshit. So it's much better to hang out with real people and talk to real people that will challenge you. All right. December is a month that men tend to reflect a lot, but they rarely act. So they might write goals, especially coming up. Like we're past Christmas. We got the last, few days left of the new year, where a lot of guys are thinking about their New Year's resolutions. So they might write some goals down, but they don't, but they're resolutions, right? They're New Year's resolutions. And then I know so many people that they legit believe in the idea that, well, resolutions are made to be broken, right? Because everyone does it. Everyone does that shit, right? So they don't have anyone there holding them accountable to their goals that they set. We had a guy, I think he joined a little over a month ago, and he asked, we challenged him to go for a walk every day because he's a heavy set guy. He's pushing 400 pounds. And we're like, can you go for a walk? Can you go for a walk like Monday through Friday? And he's like, yeah, I think I could do that. Or like, you think you can? Or can you? Like, can you? And he's like, yeah, I can do it. Okay, we're going to hold you to it. So I have a calendar reminder on my phone, and every night around 7 p.m. it says, did he get his steps in? So I go into the chat and I go, did you get your steps in? Right? If you don't have anyone doing that, a lot of guys will just fucking give up, right? A lot of people give up. And it's so common that it's almost acceptable to give up. It's sad. It's really sad. By the way, guys, if you get value out of any of these episodes, do consider sending a super chat. This is what I do full time now. So your super chats, this channel is largely supported by viewers like you. Okay. You can't build strength around weak counsel. So if a man's circle avoids truth and they're just telling you what you want to hear, and they're just telling you anything that make you feel better, you're just going to stay stuck in the same place, And, it's interesting too. Sometimes in the wolf pack, I will comment on a guy's thing saying, hey, basically calling them out on their bullshit. And sometimes they get pissed. Sometimes the other day I called out one of the guys because he was saying how he went to the gym and he was talking with chicks at the gym, which is good. Because he's a recovering nice guy, and that was something really hard for him to do, to just go up and chat up these girls at the gym. But then he said he went for a side hug with one of these chicks, and I was like, side hug, really? Like, there's certain things like that are you're just putting out a friend vibe, and it's not going to move the needle for you, when it comes to getting laid, right? Like if you treat women like friends, they're going to put you in the friend zone. Okay, is really the mantra here. And so I was like, side hug, really? And he fucking lost his shit, got so fucking pissed at me. And I DM'd him. I was like, hey man, you all right? You doing okay, man? Like, I'm not trying to shit on you here. I'm just, just trying to make you better. You know that, right? And then we got to chat, and he was like, he was okay with it. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel good when people challenge what you're doing. You want to get an attaboy, and it's like, yeah, but yes, this part was good, but this part needs improvement. You see, like that, if you don't have that kind of feedback, you're always going to keep making the same mistakes that you've always made, right? Purpose grows fastest in the presence of other purposeful men. So that's the concept of the mastermind, right? So when you have a mission that's supported, challenged, where people are like, that's probably not going to work well. This might work better. And they give you other ideas and you can sort of refine where you're going. You're going to get there much faster with that kind of feedback than you otherwise would alone trying to do it all yourself, especially if you're trying to do something that other guys have done before. And so a lot of guys that are in the wolf pack, they're in there trying to fix their marriages. Well, there's guys in there that have fixed their marriages, right? So they're like, oh, well, this is how this works. And this is how you can get through that. And when guys drop their notes in there, guys who are running into challenging situations, the guys who have been through it are like, oh, well, this is how you handle that. I've been through that. This is how you handle that. If you don't have that kind of feedback, you're just going to be guessing. You're going to be guessing and throwing shit at the wall, hoping to see what sticks and stuff, right? And being in the wrong circle can drain you. If you're with people that complain, blame, or they're stuck with their bullshit, they like to pull you into their pattern, right? It's like crabs in a bucket. Have you ever heard of the expression crabs in a bucket? If you take a bunch of crabs and put them in a bucket, some crabs will try to get out. They'll try to climb out. Well, the other crabs will pull those crabs back down in the bucket with them. They'll be like, oh no, you can't move out of this bucket. Well, people that are miserable like to do that kind of thing, right? One of the brothers in Wolfpack last night was talking about how he was hanging out with family yesterday during Christmas and it was draining him because they're all fucking negative and shit, right? I had to, when I was going through my divorce, my parents, like I said at the beginning, my parents are still not over the divorce. 11 years later, they're still not over it. But when I was going through it, I was actually staying with them for a couple of months, and there's constant negativity in my ear about all this kind of stuff, and they're just like they're coming up with conspiracy theories and all this kind of shit that's not helpful, right? I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here, right? I can't have this negativity in my ear constantly. You know what I mean? And if you're in the wrong circle of people just bitching and complaining and you need to get out of that circle. Okay. And if they're family members, it's really hard to completely cut family members out of your life. So you can really limit your time with them though. You can really limit your time. And I highly suggest that if you're with a bunch of negative ass people, really limit your time with those people. Okay. You need to protect what's up here. You need to protect your what's in your mind. Okay. We're going to talk about that more next week when we talk about the strangest secret. All right. But I keep talking about it, but guys, when would now be a good time to run with the wolves? Bear club? Not anymore.
Wolfpack, you fix what's broken. You lead like a man again. No pity, no therapy. Just fire, just flame. Cold bed, broken home, midlife drift, feeling alone. You don't need hacks, blogs, lies. You need men with fire in their eyes. We rebuild from the ground up. No excuses, no soft stuff. Telegram lit 24/7. Brothers locked in, steel, not heaven. Step inside the pack. We don't fall, we attack. Truth, fire, presence, we bring it back. Masculine pride, no time to slack. Step inside the pack. Drop your past, claim your track. No therapy talk, no playing small. We sharpen blades, we take it all.
For the love of God, somebody too sweet me for that one. Dividend Gypsy says, damn, that hit hard. As a kid, I really had very few challenges, and now I feel like I'm stuck in life. Well, it's time to get unstuck, brother. This is your year, man. 2026, get unstuck. Momentum is as important as purpose, if not more. Yes. Yeah. Without momentum, right? You'll stay stuck. You've always got to keep working Like every day, day by day, keep working towards something, right? You got to have a purpose that makes you want to get up in the morning and do something. Dark Fitness says, I've gotten pissed off at some of the feedback of the wolf pack, and that's exactly what I needed. Yeah. And sometimes we're going to say things you don't want to hear, but you need to hear it. You know what I mean? And but you know what? Like, I got to say, Dar, when he first joined the group, he was ready to divorce his wife, fucking hated her. He was so pissed at her and stuff like that. And he's been in the group for several months now. And the updates about how his relationship with his wife has like turned around. He still hit some road bumps with her every once in a while, but it's a drastic improvement. It's really nice to see. All right. The right circle fuels you. Presence, guidance, discipline, and standards. It changes how a man walks into his home, his job, and his relationship. It does too, right? If you become a guy who has a dominant masculine presence, if you have guidance from other brothers that have been through what you've been through, you develop discipline and standards, it filters into all areas of your life, right? That's why I start off the show saying, men tune into the show to level up and get better with women. And the funny thing about doing that is it tends to make us better men in all areas of our lives. That's because the qualities that make you more attractive with women and better with women and be able to handle them better, like it carries over into your job. You start working out more, like you get better health, all this kind of stuff. And then when you have, good guys in your corner pushing you to do that kind of stuff, it makes it easier to do it, because Brotherhood's an accelerator. A man with support, he moves 10 times faster than a man just sort of guessing. You know what I mean? That's why it's so important to be around other guys that have been through what you're going through. That's why, like, guys that are going through a divorce, right now, to get into the divorce strategy group is crucial, because a lot of guys, they're quick to compromise. They just want it over with, so they give up the everything, and then they end up miserable. They lose their kids and all this kind of stuff. And if you get into this divorce strategy group, we're like, this is your first step. Right. These are proven methods of getting the best out of a bad situation. Right. We had a guy who's, he joined us a couple months ago. I've talked about him a couple times because it's just such a wild fucking story. But he got in the group because he was trying to fix his marriage, but the house was on fire already. Right. Well, anyway, the things that he was telling us, we're like, this isn't adding up, bro. Like, you need to look for this. You need to check for this. Anyway, he ended up finding hidden cameras and shit in his house, and because his wife and her family were trying to catch him doing something nefarious or something. So they hid all these, they literally painted cameras to blend in with the curtains and shit. Right. And they hid him all over his house. And so when he found all those, he gathered them all up, and he's given all the footage to his attorney, and his attorney's pressing charges on the family for doing this kind of shit. Right. But he would have never known where to go and what to do if he didn't have a bunch of guys that have been through that kind of stuff already, right? What is going on with my camera? Guys, my camera all wild for you. It's all jerking for me. We better wrap this up before the whole thing goes to shit. Oh, man. Brotherhood's an accelerator. We talked about that. If you're not lost, you're not lost. You're just isolated. So your direction gets clearer the moment you stand next to men who are moving somewhere, right? A lot of guys, they feel stuck, but that's just because they don't know what to do next. They're lost, so they'll go on YouTube. They might listen to a podcast or two. But one of the things that one of the audiobooks that I'm listening to right now is called Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard. And it starts off with a quote that says, if you want to learn something, it's like a lot of people will, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, if you want to learn something, a lot of people will buy and read a whole bunch of like books on the subject, right? So a lot of people, when they come to the red pill space, they watch all the different podcasts, they tune into a bunch of different shows, and they read all the books. And I've done the same thing, right? But when you really get to a certain spot where you're doing that, you get confused because you have too much information to deal with. And so what the saying at the beginning of Feeling is the Secret says is, you're better off finding like one source and just read that repeatedly and master that, right? But that's what happens. A lot of guys, they're trying to figure shit out, and so they're doing all this kind of stuff. What if they just had one source, like the wolf pack to go to with other guys that have been through it, that are working towards the same thing, and that have a lot, that are thinking along the same wavelengths when it comes to whatever it is that you're dealing with. You're going to be able to narrow down your vision to where you need to be, and you'll get there much faster, right? By the way, guys, follow me on social media. The links are in the description for that. I'm on all the good platforms. Every man needs a counsel, right? You don't need yes men, but you need men who will challenge your thinking and sharpen your instincts. And I didn't really understand this myself, because I used to try to do everything myself too, but it wasn't until I read No More Mr. Nice Guy, I believe it was, by Dr. Robert Glover. And he talked about the importance of men connecting with other men, and how it makes us better in all areas. It gives us a place to go to, so we could take that burden stuff off our girls, right? Because women don't care about our problems. See, like if you watch that clip that I played from the beginning, where guys are like, no one cares, typically when guys play that type of thing, it's not just no one cares, but they're specifically thinking that women don't care, because women don't care. And most guys don't have anyone else to talk to. They get into relationships. They let all their friendships go away. Their coworkers aren't real friends. They're just guys that they talk to during work, but they're not like, they don't hang out after work. So the only person they have in their life is their girl, and their girl doesn't give a shit, right? So they think, oh, well, no one cares. Well, if you have a good circle of guys that they do care, right? Especially a group of guys where that's the purpose of the group, is to care. Then yeah, you actually have a good circle of guys who will, not just care, but also give you some tools on how to get out of your current situation. And December is the perfect time to audit the circle that you're with, right? So you need to ask yourself, who's helping you win? Who's helping you win in life? Okay. And who's pulling you down? Who's pulling you down? Who's keeping you stuck where you are? It's one of those things where it's one of the reasons why I don't hang out with my parents a lot, is because they are so focused on politics. That's all they can think about. And it's all negativity bullshit that just drags me down mentally. Right. So they're not helping me win. They're just talking about all this negative shit all the time. They constantly focus on the negative. And I just can't be around people like that very often. I have to really limit myself with that sort of thing. I have to be around people that, have more of a positive can-do attitude towards life. And you'll find very few of those people in this world. We have a negativity bias in our brains that wants to keep us in misery. And it's survival instinct from years ago, because to be focused on the negative so that you don't get, mauled by a saber-toothed tiger or some shit. Right. But it doesn't help you in modern day. You know what I mean? And having more of a positive mental attitude, that will actually help you get further faster in life. And it's really hard to find people like that. Right. And if your circle doesn't push you, you don't really have a circle. You have people that are just, wasting your time. You don't have a true brotherhood that's trying to, like, everyone's there trying to become better men. You know what I mean? You don't have that. But this is why I think my men grow fast inside the wolf pack. Guys are getting ridiculous results in the wolf pack. They step into a virtual room full of men solving the same battles. Dead bedrooms, divorce recovery, dating frustration, midlife drift. They don't even know where, what they're supposed to do in life, and they get guidance, truth, and accountability in there. We got one guy in there that joined, I want to say 2 months ago now. And his house was on fire too. His wife was basically told her husband, told him that she didn't love him anymore, and she was actively going to try to find a new man on the dating apps and shit. And he was like, the fuck? Like, what do I do? And he was talking to Brother Omega, and Brother Omega's like, get the fuck pack, dude. So he gets in the pack, and we immediately are like, you know, and we're honest with him. We're like, hey, look, if a woman says I love you, but I'm not in love with you, typically it's over. It's over with, right? And especially if she's putting in, putting herself out there on dating apps and Snapchat and stuff like that. We're like, are you sure you want to try to salvage this? You know, because every guy's got to do what he feels is best for him, right? That's the red pill idea of being your own mental point of origin. For some men, keeping their marriage intact and keeping their family together is more important than the pride of their wife possibly stepping out. You know, like I personally wouldn't do that, but every guy's got to do his own thing. You know what I mean? But so this guy was like, no, I want to salvage this. I want to turn this around. We're like, okay, well, your best chance then is to do the passive dread blueprint, you know, and read Get Her to Fuck You Again on repeat, right? And grab the workbook. And so he did that. He started listening to Get Her to Fuck You Again. I don't think he took the passive dread blueprint, but he started listening to Get Her to Fuck You Again on repeat, started doing the workbook, started going to the gym, started doing all this kind of stuff. And within a month, his wife turned it completely around. She got off all the apps and she's like, she saw all the improvements, and he's like, things are better now. And we're like, okay, this is where a lot of guys quit, you know, like you can't do that kind of shit. Right. It's almost like a false sense of security when your wife all of a sudden comes back around, you know what I mean? And so we're like, you got to keep going. You got to keep going now. We're like, now's the time you got to double down on the shit. And so things are improving for that guy. You know what I mean? I don't think he would have been able to do that on his own. I don't think so, you know, but a lot of guys in the group that have, especially some of the OGs in the group that have studied this stuff as long as I have, like Brother Kamal, he and I came out of the 3% man group, the original one, back at, like, Kamal can tell you stories of my floundering ass on the dating circuit. I'm sure. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and close it here, guys. New Year's is coming, and I challenge you to give yourself some direction this year. Okay. You're not lost. You're just not surrounded by the right group of dudes. And I would love to see a lot of you guys jump into the pack. Okay. It's 7-day free trial if you want to join us, and see if you like it or not. Okay. It's no harm, no foul. If you don't like it, you can leave the group. Leave the group before you get billed. Okay. But you can stop walking alone and start walking with men who want to help you win. Okay. So don't just do a New Year's resolution this year, like take it to the next level and be like, okay, I'm not only going to make New Year's resolutions, I'm going to lose a bunch of weight. I'm going to get back in shape. I'm going to get better at dating and all this kind of stuff. Whatever your plans are, I'm going to fix my marriage. Okay. And then get into the group, and you'll have some brothers in there that'll hold you accountable to those goals. Okay. Don't just do New Year's resolutions and then quit in February like everyone else. Okay. Do something for yourself that will actually get you to a better level, so that this time next year, you're a different man. I challenge you to do that. All right. All right. Go to wolf.comeonmanpod.com. The links are in the description for that. Let's see here. That's all I got for this episode, guys. Tune into the podcast on Monday. Ryan Stone, the legendary Ryan Stone, the world's greatest red pill couch. He wrote a really good blog article back in 2018, I think, on manipulation. And he broke it down into basically the 5 main ways that women manipulate men. And if you don't recognize it, you won't be able to defend against it. Okay. Now this is separate from the typical betatization process. It's really the different tactics that women will use. And they do this without even thinking about it most of the time. You know what I mean? And we're going to break down all 5 of those, and we're going to talk through those on Monday. So if you want to be able to be manipulable, but I don't know, is that a word? If you don't want women to be able to manipulate you, tune into the podcast on Monday, guys. All right, guys, that's all I have. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, hit those notifications, and have a good weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. Now, go out and get it.